You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
On this day 10 years ago, on the draft stage in Florida, the Edmonton Oilers traded for Griffin Reinhart. Definitely the worst Oilers thing to ever happen in that arena. Let's get into it with the lead. If it wasn't for Connor McDavid also being drafted, that building would be a house of horrors for the Oilers organization.
It would be quite the curse.
Yeah, not good. Griffin Reinhart didn't work out, in case you were wondering.
Did play a playoff game.
He did play a playoff game. And you know what's really funny about that too? If that would have worked, follow the rabbit hole of Griffin Reinhart lives up to his promise. He's only 31. He would be in his prime still.
I can't believe he's only 31.
When you think of it like that, it's kind of yeah, okay.
Damn. Those Oil Kings teams, not to bury them, a lot of highs in junior. A lot of guys didn't pan out. And by pan out, I don't mean they didn't have good careers, because Jerry and Curtis Lazar were on those teams. I think there was one other good player. Yep. I can't remember who.
Well, so you can go...
Mitch Moroz, yes, Mitch Moroz.
They're top 10 leading scorers on the team that went to the Mem Cup the second time.
Okay.
Henrik Samuelsson, Curtis Lazar. He actually worked out. He's had a great career.
Great career.
Mitch Moroz, Cody Corbett, Edgars Kulda, Reed Petrick, Josh Pollock, Ashton Sontner, Riley Keyser.
Ooh, it's crazy that Ashton Sontner might have the third best career out of that.
He might.
Because I think he's just an American League guy.
And then the first team that went on their Mem Cup run, Michael St. Croix, Dylan Ruck, TJ Foster, Tyler Maxwell, Martin Gernat, Christian Spels, Rhett Rashinsky, Stefan Legault, Mark Pysyk, Griffin Reinhart.
Mark Pysyk?
Couple of University of Alberta Golden Bears legends in there.
Brossoit would have been the goalie, I would think.
Brossoit and Jarry, the goalies worked.
But every year they seem to work for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Anyways, welcome into the show, everybody. We're live from the Sports Closet studio. From jerseys to hats to the legendary foam finger. You'll find it all and more at the Sports Closet. The show is also a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. We got a lot to get to today because it's a double guest day on Oilers Nation Everyday. Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period is going to swing by, friend of the show. This is his third appearance, so you get friend status when you're up to number 3.
Congratulations, David.
Very excited for David to be joining us once again. I'm sure that'll be a big moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
Devan Dubnyk, longtime friend of the show now. He's been on countless times. He's going to join us at 12:45, and we're going to float him a whole bunch of different questions about the Oilers' goaltending and potential targets and all of that stuff. So lots to get to, but let's kick things off by going into some of your comments in the YouTube chat, which are brought to you by Odd Company Brewing and the Nation Beer Everyday Lager, a crisp, clean lager crafted not just for game day, but for every day. We're not going to have game day for a while, so maybe you got to repurpose that. Maybe it's perfect for the golf course. Maybe it's perfect for after you mow your grass and you need a crisp, clean beveragino. Find one today at your local liquor store or go direct to the source, one of their 2 locations in Edmonton. Ryan S. Well, Arvidsson didn't get traded. Didn't get traded yet. That's happening. I mean, it's just a matter of when, not if. Ryan Kennedy, after that JJ trade call, I'd call Buffalo and ask about Bowen Byram. I don't really see how Bowen Byram's a fit here.
I wouldn't be calling that one.
You have Jake Wallman.
And they also said they're not going to do anything with their defense.
Yeah, so
I would stop thinking about defensemen this summer, folks.
Brian says, anyone is on the table after the Peterka move. I believe some great things are coming. I mean, Peterka wanted out. Buffalo knew they weren't going to commit the money to him necessary, so the two sides lead to a split. Again, I'll give my take on that in a bit. Want to get to a few other comments here. Ryan Kennedy, you got to call Buffalo. Apparently, they'll trade anyone for cheap. After sleeping on it, and I chatted with Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic. He covers the Sabres, and he was kind of like, there's some underlying stuff with Peterka that's maybe not as good as you think.
I saw a few people more around the Sabres who've been like, he's not as good as a guy as it may be coming off.
Yeah.
Like people, he maybe wasn't a fit in that locker room. The Sabres thing is so interesting because obviously they've traded so many players before they about to hit. And it's not necessarily, how do I word this? They're not necessarily getting bad players back. There just never seems to be enough back. You know what I mean? They're such an interesting case. They're a bad case.
Yeah.
But
again, give our full take on that in a little bit. Oil need to make a trade. Oh, wow. Actually, all the comments are just you guys wanting to talk about the Sabres. Okay.
There was one question, but we can do the Sabres thing first.
Salvo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I was thinking about this today.
Well,
funnily enough.
let's do this, then we'll get to the news.
Okay.
Salvo says, Tyler, Liam, lads, great show as always. Burning question. From a cap perspective, how did the Oilers have a Rantanen deal in place at the deadline? Honestly, who would have moved? So at the deadline, it would have been very easy for the Oilers to figure that out because Rantanen's cap hit was so low. You got to remember he was already retained down by the Chicago Blackhawks to 50%, so that was 4.5. Yeah. Dallas ended up getting him for like 2.3. So at the deadline, it probably would have just been like Arvidsson going out the door. Even then, they probably don't even need to do that. They could have afforded it, is my point.
Yeah. The money wasn't a problem then.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this too on the way in, because there's been a little bit of speculation on Brock Besser, which I want to ask Pagnotta about. But you get to this point, and I wrote an article today, it should go up later on at Oilers Nation, of just like how risky of a summer this is for the Oilers. Just like having to move out players like Kane and Arvidsson, who are obviously like legit contributors to your team in the playoffs in certain moments, but necessary to move because you needed the cap space. But now you're asking younger guys on less money to come in and fill those voids. It's like, well, how were they going to do that if Rantanen was on the team on that $12 million deal? Like, that's why it makes me believe that like the Oilers are going to do something rather bigger than this season than we're expecting. I don't know what it's going to be, but like they've shown over time that they want to go out and make these and add these big time players. It makes me wonder what the plan is, but yeah, I really don't know how it would necessarily work. I guess you wouldn't have added a Trent Frederick. Yeah. So there's $4 million, for example. Mm-hmm. $12 million. So yeah, I guess if you just trade Arvidsson and Kane, there's your $12 million. You don't have Frederick. Is basically what. Yeah, it is.
If you go 4 for Frederick, 5 for Kane, 4 for Arvidsson, that's 13 mil. Yeah. If you would have gotten Rantanen for 12, you basically have to sign 2 replacement level players, but it would have been Rantanen and 2 replacement level guys versus having Kane, Arvidsson, and whoever on the roster. Yeah.
So it makes sense now that I spell out in my head. But man, what a team that would have been.
Would have been very, very interesting to see. Absolutely. Bunkin says Marner time, no shot. 0% chance.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a giant question in a little bit that I think a lot of you believe is a 0% chance, and I think it's higher than 0. I do too. But Mitch Marner is definitely 0. Would Klim or Jeannot be a better fourth-line bet at $1 million? If I had to pick, I'm probably taking Tanner Jeannot just because, I mean, listen, I don't want either of those guys. I love and appreciate the story that is Klim Kostin.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay giving up 5 draft picks for Tanner Jeannot was an all-time hilarious move in the moment. He had the 120-goal season where he shot 19.4%, and it was like, well, that's a guy who's probably never doing that again. And then guess what? He, in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons, only has 20 goals combined in all 4 of the years. I know he's hurt a little bit. In the next 2 seasons, he has 14.
He was quite the unicorn that 2022 season with...
He was.
Predators. 130 PIMs, 24 goals.
Did he not? I want to check his...
He was injured in the playoffs. That's why he didn't play against the Oilers.
I want to check his elite... Yeah, he finished 7th in Calder voting that year. That's crazy.
Wow.
Anywho, all right, that's enough for that. Let's get to the news, and it's brought to you by the Alberta Teachers Association. Alberta school boards have the least to spend per student on public education in Canada. Let me say that again. Alberta school boards have the least to spend per student on public education in Canada. The chronic underfunding has left schools in a crisis. Classrooms are overcrowded, student needs are unmet, and supports are at an all-time low. Record numbers of teachers are leaving the profession. As proud Albertans, we can't stand by and let government policies continue to neglect education. Want to make a difference for Albertans everywhere and their kids? Demand answers from your local MLA. Our kids deserve better. It's time to stop the excuses. For more information, visit stoptheexcuses.ca.
Completely agree.
Completely agree. This is a pro-teachers show.
You should have seen the PAT stuff. Worst results in a while because of how this government formed the PATs.
I got a sign in my front lawn.
Yep, I'm
standing
getting one.
with the teachers.
We can't have both the Oilers and our teachers be cap strapped. There's got to be money. So can the teachers trade a bad contract or two? Anyways.
Teachers are striking.
Yep. Oh.
Teaching is not political. It's an everyday thing. Did something happen?
No, nothing happened. But every time my Twitter pops up, I'm like, something's happening. But no. Okay, JJ Peterka. He's going from Buffalo to Utah. It is Shane Doan and former Oiler prospect Michael Kesselring going back the other way. Peterka then automatically signs a 5-year, $7.7 million extension with the Utah Mammoth. Michael Kesselring and Josh Doan. I think Josh Doan is not that good. I know some people are saying he has a bunch of upside, but he spent half of last year in the American League on a Utah team that could have used the scoring. Like, I don't view him as a guy who has a tremendous amount of upside. I think he could become a decent top 9 guy, but I'm not looking at him going, one day he plays on your top line. I don't think he has that level of play. 62 games at 23 years old. He hasn't exactly burst onto the scene in those 62 games with just 12 goals in that time. So again, middle 6, 15 to 20 goal guy. That's not bad, but I think that's what his ceiling is as a player. Michael Kesselring is the big ad here for Buffalo. They get the former Oilers prospect who basically ever since leaving Edmonton has just snapped his fingers and become a top 4, 6'5" defenseman who can eat minutes in pretty much any scenario and has a bomb of a slap shot. Why would how?
But surely the Oilers got someone good, and he signed on for multiple years, and he's been an impactful player on his team.
How Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson.
And Josh, you might have asked him.
Yep. How they coached this guy in Bakersfield for a number of seasons, a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then still decided when it came time to be in the NHL that Vincent Desharnais was the better player.
Oh, boy.
That one is it's maddening, if I'm being totally honest with you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... kind of leaves you speechless, doesn't it? It leaves you speechless. This trade, obviously, then there was a couple of pieces missing. I'm surprised Buffalo didn't get a couple of picks in it.
It feels like it's one piece short. Because Frank Story was talking about, they apparently got 2 first-round picks offered for Peterka. They apparently had a top 10 pick offered.
The Chicago pick was in conversations, wasn't
apparently, Jordan Kyrou was a part of the conversation. Apparently, Noah Dobson was in the conversation. Again, you don't know the specifics of those trades, if Buffalo would have had to give up more or whatever, but settling on this feels like going, oh no, 2 quarters is better than a loony because there's 2 of them. And again, I like Kesselring.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll add on this is let's wait to judge until we see the Byram deal. Because if Buffalo can go and trade Bowen, what if they were to trade Bowen Byram for Jordan Kyrou? Then you're probably sitting there going, shit, Kyrou and Doan and Kesselring and the blue line's still good and maybe it's not all that bad.
I kind of look at this deal, and I know people are going to question what I'm about to say. And rightfully so, most people do. Outside of the picks in the Jack Eichel trade, the players that have gone are pretty similar. Because it's Peyton Krebs and Alex Tuck. You have one player who's Alex Tuck, obviously a bit older, but legit NHL player, you know what he is, can become something. Peyton Krebs was kind of ooh, look at this shiny box I have. Mm-hmm. He's a former first-round pick, or in this case, his dad was really good.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. That's why I think, they needed to bargain their way into some kind of picks here, even if it's just 2/3, for example, or something like that. But it's like I said off the top, Buffalo always seems to make these trades, and it's not necessarily the players that they get in return that are bad. It's just how did you not get that little bit more out of a guy?
Yeah.
You look through all of them.
It's a touch short.
Yeah, they got good players on the Eichel trade. It's actually probably the one that's not terrible, to be honest. But Sam Reinhart deal, they got Devin Levi. Great. You got your first round pick. How did you not get another pick out of that or another player? And even Tage Thompson for Ryan O'Reilly. It's probably the one that actually really worked out for them, to be honest. But they're such an interesting organization. I really don't know what to make of them. Because every year you look at the roster, you're they could get there. They have the talent. And then they just let everyone go.
Rusty is in and says, Iginla can replace Doan. Yep. Lamoureux can replace Kesselring. Yep. Don't forget, you also have the 2 massive Russians coming over if you're Utah. If you're Utah, Utah's going to be excited. Yeah, Utah should be very, very good, and they're not done yet.
A lot of assets, and credit to Bill Armstrong.
Yep.
Was he have been the one who made the Bukestad trade?
Yeah.
He's a really good GM.
Yeah.
And I know it's been a slow burn, but also, too, he's been in non-pressure situations. The pressure is on now, but this is good. Good move for him.
Let's do the other big piece of news here, because I know Pagnotta is probably going to be here in a couple of minutes. The new CBA framework is going to get announced on Friday.
Okay.
And I'll give people just sort of the Coles notes of everything that sounds like change in the new CBA, which doesn't kick in till not this summer. It'll kick in next summer, right? The NHL, beginning in 2026-27, is going to be moving to an 84-game regular season. This is also going to come with a cap on the preseason, an expected 4 games per team, and players with more than 100 career games played will be limited to a maximum, not minimum, maximum of 2 games. So they are drastically cutting the preseason and adding 2 more regular season games, which, listen, they want to make more money. I get it. I think the regular season's too long already, but if it comes with shortening the preseason, I'm actually kind of okay with this. Player contract terms are going to be sliced from 8 years to 7 if you are re-signing your own player, from 7 years to 6 years for true UFAs. This year's free agent class does not get affected. I believe that means Connor McDavid could still sign an 8-year extension. That actually kind of bodes well for the Oilers, because maybe there's a little bit of incentive there for Connor McDavid to be like, ooh, this is my last chance to sign an 8-year deal. This might take the 3-4-year deal down a little bit in terms of probability for McDavid. A comprehensive playoff salary cap mechanism will effectively close the LTIR loophole.
Good idea.
Can't wait for the Oilers to lose a second-round pick as they close the loophole. We'll have more on the Kane thing in a moment. Signing draft pick rights will be uniform across the board until age 22, regardless of the league the players are picked from. In other words, if an 18-year-old CHL player is drafted but decides to play NCAA, the team will still hold his rights for 4 years. No player deferred salary in contracts. That's no longer happening. And I have a funny feeling they're going to tell teams that's effective now. I don't think they're going to let Edmonton sign McDavid to a deferred money deal. So, signing bonuses will be capped at 60%. That's more of like a buyout calculator player thing. Revenue split remains 50-50. They're going to significantly increase the Stanley Cup playoff bonus pool fund. They're establishing a full-time emergency backup goalie so that there's no longer just the guys off the street. Teams will have someone on payroll. It won't be against the salary cap, but it would be something where think of a bullpen catcher in baseball.
Yeah.
There's going to be someone whose job it is to be the e-bug and to practice with the team to help give the goalie, days off, stuff like that.
Interesting. I wonder how that, who would that be?
I mean,
you know what I mean? Do they just hire someone, for example, guy graduates from college, they put him on an amateur deal. He stays in the city.
Yeah, he gets $90,000 a year,
something like
and maybe
that.
he has a video room role or something, right? Like bullpen catchers in baseball, they have jobs.
Yeah.
This one is just teams will no longer be able to mandate player dress code for arriving, departing games. This goes against, quite honestly, everything I love about hockey. You wear a damn suit to the game. When there's 6-year-olds who go play novice, I want them in suits. I want everybody in suits. This is despicable.
We need to increase the payments you have to put into hockey. So I think, yes, you're right.
Everyone should wear a suit.
Everyone wears suits, and every year it should actually be mandated. You have to have 7 different suits you wear throughout the year.
I think the league should have gone a step in the other direction. Only black and blue suits. I don't want fucking Mitch Marner showing up looking like Grimace anymore.
Does this mean we're going to get NBA-like outfits now
Probably.
that they can do whatever they want?
Yep.
Special.
If I see one player wear a tank top, I'm striking. Anyways,
It's
one
so
actually.
dumb.
If you actually give a shit about this,
you shouldn't care.
no
It's funny
tank
that
top.
he's in there, but I think it's honestly this should happen.
Yeah.
Is
our guest here yet?
Yes, he is.
All right. Let's go out to the Star Mechanical guest line. You know them, you love them. It's Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more by visiting them online at starmechanical.ca. They've been working within the community for over 20 years, and many of the homes built in Edmonton over the last 2 decades have had their plumbing and heating systems installed by Star Mechanical. That means you can trust them. And speaking of trust, that's why we bring in Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period. Can you believe it? They're not going to make players wear suits anymore. I'm disgusted.
This is not the NHL on a list. This is ridiculous.
Also, sorry, go ahead. No more dad?
No, I got nothing. I was trying to be funny.
You also got a great reminder in how the internet works today, because I loved your joke to Nick Alberga, but a lot of Twitter just thought that was a great chance to dunk on you. I'm like, does no one have a sense of humor anymore?
No, you can't make jokes on the internet, especially on Twitter/X. He called me an idiot. I put the wrong form of "your" on purpose. I think like 2 people got it. You got it, which was nice.
Yeah,
But
it was.
I thought it was.
I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, that's a really good. That's the best way to respond to someone calling you an idiot. And yeah, of course, Twitter didn't get it. Let's get into the real hockey talk now. Evander Kane gets moved for a 4th-round pick. The big win is that the Oilers obviously get out of the cap hit. I'll ask you a 2-parter. Was there a market for Evander Kane, and how does Arvidsson's market potentially compare to that?
Yeah, there were more teams that Edmonton was speaking to regarding Evander Kane, and according to his agent, there were 2 others beyond Vancouver where it was kind of down to the finish line. And ultimately, it ended up being the Canucks. Now, I don't think the Canucks were initially on his trade list. I think that had to change at some point over the last, I don't know if it was the last week or going into the playoffs if something like that changed. But I believe they weren't on his trade list originally when he submitted his list around the trade deadline. And then it altered. I like the move for Vancouver because they need a top 6 guy. They need some offense, and they need a motivated player. And Kane's going into a contract year where he wants another contract, so he's going to be motivated to play well. So I like it from their perspective, and the reason they gave up a pick rather than Edmonton having to incentivize a team for eating that cap hit is because there were other teams that were willing to also do that. So it ends up being the Canucks and the Oilers win in the end by freeing up that space. And you mentioned Arvidsson. There are multiple teams that are also in discussions with Stan Bowman about acquiring Arvidsson and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. They're trying to capitalize as well to see how they can maximize a return here for him as he enters the final year of his deal. He has a full no move. He submitted the list of teams that he would waive it to. And I think it's still situational. So I think he still has a final say once they've agreed. And then, he'll say, okay, fine, I'll go here. I don't know what the teams are at this stage, but it would be similar situation. You're eating the full $4 million cap on Arvidsson's deal.
Obviously, they're going to need someone to replace those guys. And I believe you mentioned yesterday that Andrew Mangiapane could be an option for the Oilers. What can you tell us about that situation?
Yeah, he's on their radar. He's one of the players that they're likely to pursue come July 1. There are a number of teams that are viewing him as a mid-9 or top-9 option, mid-6, I should say, excuse me. And like Toronto's in the mix on that, or will be in the mix on that. He's on their radar, excuse me. The Jets as well, Seattle, Boston. There are other teams. It's a shallow free agent pool, boys. So you're going to see players that are going to cash in a little bit extra on deals. Now, I think he's going to be in the $4 to $5 million range, somewhere in that vicinity, depending on term. I don't know if that's a fit for the Oilers based on, we'll have to wait to see what else they potentially do, but I do anticipate them being a team that at least makes that inquiry for a guy like Mangiapane to fill out that mid-6 environment for them.
Yeah, and obviously there is a little bit of a hole there for the Oilers. They have some guys who are pending UFAs of their own, Corey Perry, Connor Brown, Kasperi Kapanen as well. Have you heard anything on that front when it comes to the Oilers' appetite of maybe just keeping some of the guys who were here last year versus going out and spending up for a new piece?
Well, they like to do both. I think perfect world, Corey Perry stays. I think they're in discussions right now with Connor Brown's camp this week to see if that's going to be a possibility, and if it's low dollars, then I think there might be a fit there. But they're gonna look to fill elsewhere. Like let's round out 2 guys to hold on to, and then let's fill the rest of those voids from outside options. I'm not sure where things stand, quite frankly, with Kapanen. I wish I did. I don't have an answer on that. But I do know, Frederick, they're still trying to hammer that out. And I still believe that's, 8 years, 3.75 neighborhood is where that'll end up. I think they're just still trying to figure out structure. So unless something has happened in the last 10 minutes, I think that's kind of where things are at there. And then I mentioned again, Perry is likely to stick around. They would hope, and then if Brown's there on a low end deal, I think there's an opportunity for him to stick around too. But I know there's a lot of people are going, well, they got a lot of cap space and they'll create $4 million more. Well, the $4 million pretty much is gone because you give it that to Frederick for the most part. And then I think a lot of people keep forgetting that Evan Bouchard is going to need a lot of money, and that's going to eat up a big chunk of your cap space. So this is going to take a little bit of juggling and finagling here by Stan Bowman and company.
And we kind of went through and did the math yesterday of like, okay, if you bring back 2 of Kapanen, Brown, and Perry, and that costs you 3.5, and let's just call Bouchard 10, and let's call Frederick 3.8. You dice it all up, and it's like, oh man, they're only going to have like potentially $3 to $4 million left to upgrade their goaltending, which everyone looks at as sort of the you must do this at some point this summer. But the goaltending market's weird right now, David. Like, I mean, Gibson looks great, but he's expensive. If the Ducks aren't retaining, they can't squeeze him in. Demko, is that extension territory for Vancouver, or do they pull the pin on that? Like, there is not a sure thing, a shining light at the end of the tunnel for the Oilers in terms of a clean fit, is there?
No, they're going to have to. They're going to have to finesse another team, or at the very least, be the ones to engage with a team on a goaltender. Demko right now, they're currently, and they're talking again today with his camp. They're engaged in contract talks, trying to see if there's an extension that can be worked out. If that's the case, then I think they end up trading Shilovs. If they can't figure out a deal, then he's available. But do the Canucks want to help the Oilers more than they already have? I don't know, especially from that side of things. Gibson would come to Edmonton, but he wants to be the main guy. He doesn't want a platoon. And I think this is the other thing. I think, again, and also looking at things financially, and Anaheim would retain on Gibson's deal, but it all depends on what the overall structure of that trade is going to look like. Calvin Pickard is a $1 million cap hit. You want to keep that as your backup. That's your number 2 guy. I think if they do upgrade in net, I think there's quite frankly, I think that just makes sense from a financial side of things to cushion that financial blow. But also, if they're bringing in a new guy, again, this is not going to be on a platoon basis. They want a guy that's going to handle 60 games, 65 games, in that range, maybe more, and be that number 1. So does that mean, where do they value Elvis Merzlikins, for example? Is that a direction you want to go in? If Columbus is looking at making a change in net, bringing in another guy and moving out Merzlikins. I'm not exactly sure if Skinner that, and I don't know if Merzlikins would be the right fit for the Oilers, quite frankly, especially from a financial perspective. He's the product of building team, so record looks okay, but goals against, save percentage, not so cute. But again, is that a product of the environment or the goaltender himself? I think he's a solid goalie, but the value isn't high there, and he's got a solid cap hit. So I think you're looking in a different direction if you're exploring the goaltending market.
I'll ask you because, there's so much buzzing around right now, and obviously we're, 30 hours away from the beginning of the NHL Draft. Let me just give you the underhanded softball toss. Who's a team you're really watching that could make some noise around the league? Who do you got your eye on?
Many. There's not one. Utah's not done. They're very much active out there. They're dangling that 4th overall pick. Can they bring in a top 2 defenseman? Can they bring in a top line or top 6 power forward? That's what they've been looking for the 4th overall pick if they end up moving it. Pittsburgh's very aggressive as well, not just exclusively on, trying to trade Carlson and Rust and Raquel and Achari and all those guys, Graves and so on. They've got a couple firsts. They're willing to do a few things where they can bring in, move those picks, bring in some young kids or prospects that are a little further along that they value. Montreal Canadiens, very aggressive as well. They want to bring in a top 6 forward. If it's a center, awesome. If it's a high-scoring winger, beautiful. They'd like to do that as well. They're exploring every asset, of what's out there. And they've got 2 first-round picks, 16 and 17. Both are in play. They've got a very deep prospect pool. They got a crap ton of young defensemen, promising young defensemen. So they're another team that's out there that's active. So I'm looking at a variety of different paths here. The Islanders, outside of number 1, do they engage with Utah for number 4? Do they engage with who's got number 5? Nashville?
Yeah.
I think they've got 5. Do they go in that direction as well? They're having talks today with Noah Dobbs's agent. Can they make any groundwork, lay any groundwork there towards an extension? Or if the gap is too wide, do they look at possibly, all right, we'll take the 4th and another asset or something like that from Utah, or the same with Nashville. I know they moved out Kesselring as part of the Peterka trade, but would they bring in a guy like Dobson? Would they include a guy like Sean Durzi? It kind of fits. I mean, we'll see. You're hearing some things, so you're trying to connect dots. I don't know if they've had that specific discussion, but there's a lot of activity, and I know we hear this every year. And last year was like, holy crap, there's a shit ton of moves that are potentially happening. And then, like, nothing. Like, it's like running into a wall. There was no trades, which was painful at times. But this year, because of the draft class and because of free agency being thin, I think there's added motivation for teams to be making these types of moves now and around the draft.
I got one more, and it's about Corey Perry. So, obviously, free agent, but we've just seen Jamie Benn and Jonathan Taves both sign for these low cap hits right now, but all these bonuses added on if they make it however far in the playoffs. Like, could you see that happening in a Perry deal? And if so, is that something the Oilers would just turn away from?
Nick posting pictures of me here. His cap hit was what, 1.15, something along those lines.
Yeah,
it'll probably hover around that mark, around the million mark, and then continue to be incentivized with potential bonuses. I don't think this is going to be a hard negotiation. I don't know if it's been to this point. I don't anticipate it. The one thing I heard when the Frederick stuff came out a couple of weeks ago, or 10 days, whatever it was, there was the idea that the Oilers want to get a few guys locked in, or at least 2, and then just here are the guys that are staying. That's it. Well, unfortunately, so-and-so and so-and-so are going to walk to free agency. And I wondered if Perry was part of that. I also wondered if Brown was part of that. I could see that being the fold, but with respect to Corey Perry, like he's made it clear. He wants to play. I think it was media day during the Cup final where his kid was like, yeah, mom said it was cool for 1 more year. So he's got the blessing back home to pull it off. And he fits. He fits the room. I would be surprised if he's not inked to a new deal.
All right, David Pagnotta, appreciate you giving us some time. If people want to read more of your work, fourthperiod.com. We put the link in our YouTube chat. Again, know you're busy. What's your screen time like these days? Disgusting?
I don't even want to look at it. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. Tomorrow we're, our stuff, and then NHL Network on the TV side and the radio side. It's all over. It's a new setup. I have no idea what that means. But if I will tell you, if there are no trades within the first 10 to 15 picks, you might see me just pull off a cameo appearance behind Bettman across the screen just to add some level of entertainment here. I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. I'm expecting activity. I'm hoping that everybody gets entertained.
All right, David, thanks for your time, man. Sorry you have to hang out with Alberga.
It's
Fuck you.
I got to deal with that on a regular this trip.
I know, and I don't envy you. Nick, that 8x16 extension for McDavid on August 12th is going to feel real good in this part of the country.
He's been beating that horse forever.
I know. All right, okay. Well, let's go. See you, David.
See ya.
There you go. David Pagnotta, the fourth period. Read his work over there. Always, they're on top of everything that breaks, doing great work. Him and Dennis Bernstein, who we obviously had on the show during the playoffs as well. His appearance was also brought to you by Litco Law. I got to tell you about that. When employers cross the line, Litco Law is here to referee. If you've been fired without cause, pushed out of your job, or treated unfairly at work, a good employment lawyer can help. Call for backup so you can defend your rights and make sure you get what you're owed. Go to litcolaw.com. Book your free consult today. You can find out if you have a claim in minutes because your hard work deserves what's fair. Level the playing field with Litco Law. Visit litcolaw.com. Interesting. The Mangiapane, like, this is where I keep getting into, quite honestly, a little bit of a pretzel when it comes to all the free agent stuff, because I'm like, oh, yeah, Mangiapane, like, he played some, I think, bottom six, middle 6 minutes with the Washington Capitals last year. Like, yeah, you know what? For a couple $1 million, a guy that scored, what did he get last year? 14 goals, back-to-back seasons with 14 goals. Yeah, I like that. And then you hear Pagnotta go, yeah, you might get $4 to $5 million. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. It's like Jake Allen, right? When it was like, you know what? If you can't get anything done on the trade front and you're the Oilers, do you just go to Jake Allen and go, here's a 2x3? And then you hear Frank go, oh, make it 2x5. And it's like, well, shit, then I don't want Jake Allen. And it's like, I get we have to rewire our brains a little bit here on the AAVs and the cap hits. And like we talked about this with Frederick, like the way that's going to age, we're going to have a conversation there with Evan Bouchard's deal and how that's going to age. Like, I get all that, but there's rewiring your brain. And then there's just signing bad deals for the sake of having money. And I have no interest in Andrew Mangiapane at $4 to $5 million.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's a good player, and I think, too, like, the difference between someone like him and Skinner and Arvidsson, like, obviously those two are the same last season. With Mangiapane, there's not the expectations of, like, oh, what if this guy gets 25?
There's not the upside,
what if he gets 15? Then you're like, awesome season. But to give that guy $5 million, like you said, after what you just went through with Skinner and Arvidsson, you may as well just go and re-sign Jeff Skinner, who's going to be cheaper because his season was so disappointing. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, let me frame it this way to you: $4 to $5 million on him, or would you rather just go? You know, Justin Brazeau and Trent Frederick had good numbers together. That guy cost you 1.5. And I'm not saying he's as good of a player as Andrew Mangiapane, but I'm saying in the realm the Oilers are working. If it's 4 to 5 for guys, and Andrew Mangiapane's expected deal on AFP was 2x3.9. So, like, again, he'll probably get a tick up. You probably have to go a little up on all these projections. But, like, I don't know, man. Go sign Viktor Olofsson then. He has 20 goal upside.
How long was Mangiapane's contract on that 2.3?
2x3.9.
Oh, 2x3. Sorry, I thought it said 2.319.
No, 2x3.9.
Yeah, don't love that. Because I think on there they have Jeff Skinner as 2.5 for 1 year, right? So that's what I mean. Like, do you want to go and get the new shiny box, or just know what you already kind of have in a guy? And I don't think he's the option, by the way. That's the example.
Yeah.
Free agency. It was so much funner when, I don't know, Ryan Suter and Zach Parise were options.
Those famously worked out well.
Yeah, that was a great year. Famously worked out well.
Yeah. All right, Devan Dubnyk's going to join us in about 5 minutes' time, I believe. He's not here yet. But let's do our Sherwood Ford Giant question that'll lead us into Devan Dubnyk a little bit. It's brought to you by the Nation Ballet Service and our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Make them your next spot for a new or used vehicle by checking out their large inventory at sherwoodford.ca. Nation Ballet Service, by the way, means you never have to visit the dealership again for routine car maintenance. Find out more about that at their website as well. All right, Liam, it's a percentage question.
There we go. I love these ones. I'm always so bad at them.
Percentage chance the Oilers just run it back with Pickard and Skinner.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right.
Do you know, I do think there's a greater than 50% chance that they will change the goaltending.
Okay. That was not
the
question.
Tease you up then. So I will say, I'll just say around... I'm always over on these. I think there's like a 25% chance that they keep the same goaltender.
I was going to say 20.
Okay, phew. Usually I'm like 20%, and you're like, what? 3%. So that was good. I'm glad we're close on that.
20 to 25%. And listen, Naeem says 0. Mikhail and Dry says 75. Rob says 90.
That they keep the same?
That they keep the same. 70 from Lance. 65 from Ryan. Like, you guys are a lot higher than I thought you'd be for the most part. And here's another thing. Like, I just saw the report from Friedman that Nick Ehlers has told the Oilers, or has told the Jets he's going to free agency, and that there's no extension coming there. I mean, yesterday I outlined that lineup that I'd thrown together. I don't know if we still have it, Aaron, with kind of like all the pieces in there. But I outlined this lineup that gave the Oilers $4.25 to $5.25 million to upgrade their goaltending. With obviously that's with Pickard leaving and Skinner staying. It involved 3.8 for Frederick, 10 mil for Bouchard, 2 for Brown, and 1.25 for Kapanen. I had Corey Perry walking out the door.
Yes.
But again, let's maybe reimagine this, because $4.25 million. Well, let's say they don't re-sign Connor Brown, and now there's an open spot. You're up to $6.25 million. Okay, well then let's take $1 million off the roster from David Tomasek or Kapanen and say, you know what, we're running with 12 forwards next year. One of those are off. So now here's the lineup that, or one of the lineups I had thrown together. Maybe there's a world where do you go from a Brett Kulak to maybe someone who's only $1 million? Like,
it's an option for sure.
Do you buy out Adam Henrique or trade Adam Henrique? Is there a world where the Oilers just sit there and go, man, how much better, like if you can't get Gibson and you can't get Demko, how much better is Jake Allen compared to the Skinner-Pickard duo? How much better is Nikolai Ehlers versus whatever you have in the lineup?
Yeah, that's unfortunately, it's just been the same debate for the past 12 months on the goaltending. Like, coming into last season, I wasn't really that interested in making the upgrade on him because I thought Skinner was... He outdueled Bobrovsky in the stats in the Cup final 2 years ago. Obviously,
didn't have the big games that Bob did.
Yeah, but Bobrovsky had the more wins, and that's what's more important in any playoff series. This season, it's obvious they need to look at something, but the problem is, and Tanner put a good point in the chat of just like, you're paying to either downgrade, you're adding more money to either downgrade or just side grade. Side grade's a weird word.
Lateral move.
There you go.
There you go. I'm the word guy. That's
but it's true. It's just like, who's the guy? Like, I know.
And Evan says, but Ehlers wants a quieter market. Sure, then go get Besser.
Yeah, Besser's such an interesting one.
I don't know if I love Besser, but
do you know who his best friend is?
Troy Stetcher.
Tony Stretcher.
Tony Stretch.
Yeah, like Muzzy said, Gibson is way better than Skinner. Yeah. He's probably a little bit better, I would agree. The problem is like you probably have to put Skinner in that deal. And again, like I know Pagnotta just said, like, keep Pickett for the $1 million. But let's walk down this scenario. Gibson misses another 20 games, and all of a sudden, Calvin Pickett is starting 50-plus games for you. Maybe that's too high, but let's just say 40 games for you. It's like, do you really want to do that? Like, I just don't think that's, like, the greatest thing to go out and do. He says it's difficult.
Yeah. People really liking the side grade.
Yeah, that was not ideal.
Not your...
But you all know what I meant. I'm pretty sure Tanner said side grade. Point this on Tanner.
Upgrade, downgrade, side grade.
You just move to the side.
Just off to the side.
Makes sense.
Let's keep the goaltending conversation going. Guess where we're going? Back to the Star Mechanical guest line. They work with top local award-winning home builders on their new homes, and they work closely with CHPA on events like Awards of Excellence in Housing, and they win awards as well. They supply, maintain all the major brands like Lennox, Carrier, Goodman, Train, and more. StarMechanical.ca. We head out to chat with Devan Dubnyk from the hit show Ask Doobie. He doesn't do pre and post anymore, though, because the season's done. Do you miss it, though? Do you miss the thrill of the live broadcast?
I do. I absolutely do. I felt sad. I felt sad because they lost, and then, it was an awesome run, and I'd look forward to the game nights, and then all of a sudden it was just over. It was kind of sad.
I miss you too, Doobie. Don't worry, I'm still.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, Aaron's still kicking.
I knew you were there in the background.
I mean, it sucks the way like those last two games just kind of flamed out, and then with the NHL schedule being the NHL schedule, you blink and it's like, okay, you are right in the thick of the offseason stuff. And I do think like in the moments after and the 48 hours after, there is a lot from the fan base, from us, of like, what are you going to change? Something major needs to happen for this team to get back. And as the days go on, you calm down a little bit, I think is the best way to put it. But we just talked about, this goaltending market is thin. And again, the day they're eliminated, it's like, you got to go get Gibson, go pay for Binnington or Demko. But as the market kind of evolves here, do you see a clear-cut upgrade, a guy you point to and go like, that is the man to fix the crease problems for the Oilers?
No, there's not a clear-cut guy. It's how they want to go about it, really. Do you want to trade assets to get somebody? Then obviously you're going to get more of a guy that has the potential to be that upgrade. Mm-hmm. or are you going to free agency? I think I like that side comparison there. Like there's no point in trading for somebody who's essentially the same as Pickard, because what else are you going to ask from a guy? Yeah. Like your backup goalie went 7-1 in the playoffs and took you to the Stanley Cup Finals for a good chunk of that. And so even somebody who's maybe technically better than Pickard might not have gone 7-1, might not have done what he did. So he did everything you asked for, and you're still having this question. So if they're going to do something, you're either going to have to give up. So again, do you go the route where you try to upgrade and get rid of Skinner? Because I think that if you're going to go for Gibson or Binnington or somebody of that nature, then Skinner's probably going to have to be a part of that. Or are you going with somebody who's truly going to be a 1A, 1B, potentially 1A, where he's actually challenging Skinner and actually like Skinner's not the starter. You guys are going to play, and we're going to go throughout the year and figure out who the starter is, because realistically, like Picks might have a couple games here where he's out playing, but throughout the year, if it's a Skinner Pickard combination, Skinner's a starting goaltender. And if they're looking to add somebody to change that, to push it, whether that's through free agency or a lesser trade, I guess, which I that's my guess is where they go. I mean, you could make. I know you guys were talking about a Jeremy Swayman deal. That's a big splash, and then that also then comes with a significant cap hit, which becomes all the issues with that as well. But I mean, Jeremy Swayman is a really, really good goalie. That would be a big splash. That would be you have a number one guy. I don't care if he had a bad year last year. He is really good.
But even that, to be fair, Dubes, that comes with some risk, because like if he doesn't bounce back, now it's an albatross contract for 6 years. Like if you do that swing, you need to be right.
You're right, and then you're hooped, and they know. I mean, they've got the star players. They've got like they're going to be cap crunched forever, which is not a bad thing, because they got to pay guys because they're playing well. But that is more of a risk. John Gibson's obviously on the table, but I wouldn't say he's proven. He's of course he's proven as a good NHL goaltender, but it's not like he's won a bunch of stuff. Now playing on obviously not a good team, and I think that he's a good goaltender, but he's had his injury stuff too. And I think you guys mentioned that to get Gibson, then Skinner's probably going to have to go the other way. And then are you putting all your eggs in that basket? I think there's some intriguing ones. I was trying to pull up. You guys posted the other day, and I was trying to pull up the list of guys. I think Gregor had put a list of potential free agents, and there was a couple interesting ones in there. I don't know if you have that list. I don't think Jake Allen. That's like a compliment to Skinner, but again, you're kind of like you're asking him to do essentially what Pickard came in and did. I think like he'd be a good goalie, and he'd be a good support guy, and like if you needed a guy to come in, he's experienced and he can play, but that's not like you're not getting him as your upgrade. That's a side grade.
Side grade. I agree. The other name that was kind of thrown out there by Gregor after you mentioned it was Anton Forsberg. Now, I think the thing is, like, is he better than Pickard? Like, probably. I mean, Pickard's no world beater by any means, but he comes in and does a job for you. But the problem is with all these guys, like even Allen, you have to pay him 5 times more than what you paid Calvin Pickard. Like, the Oilers don't have a lot of money. Like, if they did go out and pay Forsberg, for example, and got rid of Pickard, like, would that be a slight upgrade, I suppose?
Yeah, but you're not. You're right. And a team that's worried about cap space, you're now paying for a guy, getting rid of cap space for somebody who might be the starter. I mean, again, it's like Skinner's a good goalie. He's still young. He's gonna continue to go. They obviously aren't hell bent on just like shipping him out of here. So do you go and pay $5 million for a 50-50 maybe? And Forsberg's a good goalie, but is he going to come in and steal the show? I don't know. There's definitely no guarantees for that. I was just looking too that Joey Decord's an interesting one. He's obviously an RFA.
No, Seattle gave him a 5-year deal.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit old that I'm.
So let me. I'll give you the
list.
UFAs if you want here. Outside of Allen and Forsberg, there are 9 other UFA goalies who played NHL games last year. So, Doobie, here's what we're going to do. You're going to put your thumb down like this. I'm going to read the names, and when I get to one that you think is a clear-cut upgrade on Pickard, you flip the thumb up. So here we go.
It's like Gladiator.
Yeah. Alexander Gorgiev, David Riddick, Alex Lyon, Dan Vladar, Ilya Samsonov.
Vladar.
Oh, okay.
Which
maybe
one do we
Vladar.
have for Vladar or Lyon?
The other ones are Vanacek, Reimer, and Husso. So your thumb kind of went up for Vladar or Lyon?
Vladar, that was what I was. I think that would be an upgrade. Again, this is in the situation where you're not getting a guy who's like guaranteed. Like, that's not necessarily your guy. I thought he played well in Calgary. I liked the way he looked. Husso is an interesting one. I think there's he's struggled, but I've seen him play really well. If you're gonna go with like a guy to push somebody who's got like potential, I think Husso is an interesting one as well. Again, the other guys, I feel a little bit like you're just doing it to do it. And you have a guy in Pickard who is very well liked in the dressing room. We've talked about it. He battles. The guys like him. They go to war for him. All of these things that you want in a goaltender, we know are there. So the last thing you want to do is, one, you're for sure paying more for somebody, and then to get even close to a 50-50 trade-off with a guy who's extremely well liked. And has a great attitude and great work ethic. Why would you do that? And so it becomes tricky. You have to find somebody who is definitely could potentially be your starter, could potentially outplay Skinner to be the starter.
Vladar also the youngest guy on the list. He's only 27.
And he's very big. We
This is
know
big one,
teams
yeah.
fall in love with big goalies all the time, right? Like, I mean, you think about like when Mikko Koskinen came over, it was like Devan Dubnyk was a big goalie. But right, like, I mean, Mikko Koskinen came over, and what was the thing? It was just like, oh well, shit, he's huge.
Yeah.
And Vladar's big. Like, teams look at that.
I heard a lot of goalie saviors coming through Edmonton after I left. a lot of saviors after I left. Ben Scrivens was one of them. I heard he was the guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, if we would have had a show back then, we would have been probably very excited about the Scrivens Fast, the duo. But this city's gotten excited about a lot of goalies that haven't worked out. But again, like, that's almost the crazy part about this whole Stuart Skinner thing is, like, he's 26 years old. Like, you can speak to it a little bit, Dubes. He was, in the grand plan for the Oilers, it was a 5-year deal for Jack Campbell, where Campbell is the workhorse starter for years 1, 2, and probably 3. Then year 4 and 5, you transition it off to Stuart Skinner, and your goaltending set. That plan got thrown out of whack, and from day one, Stuart Skinner had to be the starter. Like, the initial timeline probably isn't all that off for Skinner. Like, trusting him to bounce back a little bit. I'm not saying he's ever going to win a Vezina, but like, the idea that he can't be better than he was last year, I think that's unfair to Skinner.
100%. It is unfair. And that, I think people forget his age because of the amount of experience he's had up into this point, the amount of playoff games he's played, the ups and downs that he's seen in the playoffs. And so I think it's smart of them. Like, you don't just want to part ways just because you haven't won. You've got to the cup final, obviously, you know, the stuff that his up and downs in the playoffs, but you know, he's has this experience at 26 years old that not a lot of guys have. He's got more playoff experience than I have. I'm 39 and I played for 12 years. Like, he's got experience, and you can't buy that. You can't. You have to be there. So he has potential. Of course, he's 26. He should be getting better. He should continue to get better as he gets older and continues to play. The hard thing is it is continually hard for him to play every day when it's this constant situation that's getting talked about. And now it's like it's 2 in a row of, and I'm not saying him, but they've gone to the cup finals 2 times in a row and they've lost. So, which is extremely impressive. But if you go to the cup finals again with the same duo and lose again, then it's like, and that's going to be the talk the entire time. So you either really make a splash and go get somebody, and that you're going to have to get rid of Skinner, but that's going to have to be somebody who's really good. And that's why I'm like, not sure on Gibson, because it's like, yeah, he's good and he's, you know, he's had some great years, but he's had a lot of injuries, and it's like, are you going to give up on a 26-year-old for somebody who's not like you're guaranteed? Like, I think Jeremy Swayman has the potential to be like a top goalie, and he's shown it. And so, like, to me, that's a better risk, but you're paying a lot more. It comes with the salary, all of those things. But I think you gotta at least, like, you're either making a big splash and getting rid of Skinner, which it becomes so difficult, because if you don't and you run it back, even if you go get somebody a slight upgrade from Pickard and you play a little bit, and then there's not really a true starter, and it's like, do they need a guy to get them over the hump? And I don't know if they do. It's just that storyline is there, and people are going to be watching it. It's just going to become increasingly more and more pressure on them throughout, and people are going to be upset if they run it back, if they get there again, if they get to the conference final and don't get there, if they get to the final and don't win. It's going to be talked about again, and people are going to be upset. So it's a very difficult situation, and it's not an easy fix. But I think it's either, you got to go one or the other. You move Skinner and do something big and really commit to this window to win a Stanley Cup, and obviously there's risk. There's a lot of risk to that. Or you try to get a guy for cheaper that could potentially be an upgrade, and understand that it's going to come with a lot of chatter all year about it.
I wanted to ask you about the forward group. Obviously, the Oilers made the moving out of Evander Kane yesterday. It looks like Viktor Arvidsson is going to be out the door pretty quick here soon too. The pressure of Connor McDavid's contract and what that's going to look like. The Oilers need to fill some holes, and I just wondered, like, what you thought they were missing in the Cup final, as to, like, what they need to go and find this offseason to get their forward group to the next level.
Well, I mean, fortunately, they already have Zach Hyman, and they were missing him a lot. That was especially with the way that series was. That was a tough loss, and I know you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to make excuses, but I mean, this is a guy who was so good for them the way he played in playoffs, and that type of play too would have been perfect for the finals the way it was. Because I think they, as much as the Oilers needed to stay away from the extracurriculars and stuff, I also found that in the last couple games they did get away from the physicality that we had in the first couple games, and that energy and that hitting. Podkolzin brings that, but I didn't really see that from guys in those games. And again, part of that can be the way the game goes. They get behind and guys are focused on trying to generate offense, but that physicality and that energy against that Florida team, you saw the way it worked in the first couple games. And I think that kind of went away a little bit. So a little bit of sandpaper, but I think honestly, like, that was a good hockey team that they had. And so when you're filling holes, I think you obviously, with the contract situation, you want to save some money in certain areas, which obviously with, Kane was really good for them, but they needed the cap relief. I think Arvidsson, same thing. Like, that's going to be, you don't want to have $4 million on Arvidsson if you're trying to make cap space. So those would be good things. And then it's finding guys to fill in those roles the same way for maybe a little bit cheaper. But for that playoff run, like, I really like the look of their group. So you want to keep that same feel and fill out your lineup with guys that can, especially for the Oilers, get guys that can move up and down. That you have the potential of, they can play fourth or third line, and if they need to, they could pop up and play with McDavid. And that's not everybody, but find guys who are able to do that, because that's really, especially the way with Knobloch likes to switch his lines around, and especially even mid-game and stuff. You want to have a group of guys that are able to move up and down the lineup, so that he's able to make those changes and not end up with half of a third line and a fourth line who you just can't move up.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, having the $7+ million in the press box for playoff games is just like, you can't do that. Doobie, appreciate your time. We're going to keep you in the bullpen, just tossing lightly. And then the second the Oilers make a goalie move, bam, we're out of the dugout. We're bringing you in. But thank you for your time. We'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Mixed in a baseball reference there, because it's time to wrap up the show with a little bit of talk for Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Use the promo code NATION. Must be 19 or older. The Toronto Blue Jays and Cleveland Guardians are throwing at each other.
What do you mean?
Vladdy got hit, and then they threw at Jose Ramirez.
No way, Jose.
Yeah, and they're freaking out. Anyways, Jays are up 3-0.
Freaking out.
Yeah, they're freaking out. I'm trying to see if my bets on Bet365 are going to cash or not. Kevin Gausman, I needed him to get one more strikeout. Didn't get it. So I'm now hoping he comes back out for the 7th inning.
Trevor put a question in the chat. My big question, I'd love to, I'm assuming, ask Doobie to talk about goalie regression. You can actually ask him every week.
On Ask Doobie. Can we grab a screenshot of that, send it to Reese?
Reese.
Okay, good. Reese, grab that.
Grab that from Trevor.
Yep, that one can go on the next episode of Ask Doobie on the Oilers Nation YouTube. Giddy up. Okay.
You should do the other thing you told me about on Bet365.
Oh, yeah. So there are odds up on who will be the Game 1 starter for the Oilers next season on Bet365. Here they are. Stuart Skinner, the favorite, -120. Gibson, +300. The other 6 goalies on the list are Jake Allen, Calvin Pickard, Tristan Jarry, Alex Lyon, Ilya Samsonov, or Joseph Woll. Any other player is +400. That's your bet. Demko, Hofer, UPL, any of the other trade targets, and Anton Forsberg would be covered in that.
Yeah, Dan Vladar.
Dan Vladar covered in that.
Vladar, like, not the craziest option because he is a young guy. I don't hate it.
I might hate it.
I might hate anything.
I might hate anything.
I'm going to hate if they keep the same guys.
Yep.
I'm going to hate if they move Stu because he's too young to move.
Yep.
I'm going to hate any player they bring in. God,
All
we're in a bad spot. But yeah, I like this one. This is a very interesting, they're the only team.
Yeah. No other team's getting those odds. All right. That's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Tomorrow, we might have our friend Jason Demers. It's also draft day, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Get to some more rumors. I also have an interesting goalie line of thinking, but I want to save it for tomorrow's show. Give you a little tease. It involves next year's free agents. But that is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll see you Friday, noon Mountain. Oil up.